Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. So for today's episode, we're going to be talking about who are the Padres' untouchable prospects. Obviously, not much going on in free agency now with the lockout. However, when things kind of start up again, it is very likely that the Padres will be trading away a lot of their farm system. And you've seen names like Luis Campusano, Robert Hassel, Mackenzie Gore, even CJ Abrams brought up in a lot of deals. And really, at any level of the Padres system, we've heard guys' names get brought up in potential rumors or trade packages to go get a Matt Olson or some guy like that. And so for this episode, I thought it'd be really interesting to see who each of us have as guys that we would not trade no matter what. So maybe there's guys that are close to untouchables, and we can bring those guys up. But Isaac, are there any true untouchable guys in the Padres system?
The obvious one would be CJ Abrams. The guy has 80 grade speed, probably could be one of the fastest players in the MLB, if not the fastest. I've kind of thought his ceiling would be like a Trey Turner type player who could play both middle infield positions, but he could also play an outfield position. And I've seen some things, we all saw it, where people said, "Oh, he's blocked, so we should trade him." Mookie Betts got moved from second base because of Dustin Pedroia because he was blocked. So the talent is there. It's just you don't want to move the talent because he's blocked by somebody else. You want to be able to keep that bat talent in your lineup. So trading him is a blasphemous thought. I don't even think that's on AJ Preller's mind. There's of course others that aren't on AJ Preller's mind for trading as well, but I think this is the one guy that's on top of the list. For anyone who remembers, we made a top 30 prospects list. I think it was last year before spring training, and it might have been like an unpopular opinion, but we actually had CJ Abrams number 1 over Mackenzie Gore, and that's looked pretty good right now. So CJ Abrams, 80 grade speed, a guy who can, I think he had a double or a home run off Trevor Bauer, something like that. So a home run off Trevor Bauer, triple off somebody else. Like, he's shown his talent in spring training against MLB caliber players, and that's a guy I want in my lineup, whether it's second, short, outfield. I think he can be. I think his floor is a Chris Taylor type player.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Off on the triple, for anyone of you that hasn't seen the video, CJ Abrams hits like a deep pop fly into right center field. And by the time it gets to the second baseman or whoever the relay guy was, CJ Abrams was already walking onto third base. It wasn't already in the infield. It was by the time it got to the relay guy. He was already walking into third base. If they took any longer, it could have been a inside the park home run. If it was probably like an actual game, he might have actually turned it into inside the park home run on just like a routine deep fly ball. Guy has insane speed. I'd name 3 other prospects, and I have 2 guys that are probably not on your list just for personal reasons. Mackenzie Gore is my second. He's just kind of been screwed over when it comes to his progression, to his development, because 2020, we had the COVID season. There was no minor league season for him. He kind of just got stuck at UCSD with the other 60 players, or the 30, 35 players that were there that weren't on the 25-man roster, 26, whatever it was. Then come 2021, finally gets a minor league season, goes through some ups and downs, goes through blister injury, goes through him getting his mechanics completely changed up, and finally starts to have some success. Now, where he can't contact any of his coaches, brand new pitching coach, new minor league coaches, and not sure they're going to have a season. Not sure when the MLB season is going to start. Not sure when spring training is, or when pitchers and catchers are supposed to report to spring training, because we all know he's going to get an invite. His statistics from last year show regression, but the talent is still there. We saw the glimpses of that he is going to be this ace-level guy, even working through all of this. You can't give up on him now. I think it would be a mistake to trade him, and that one I think would burn us. Then the other 2 that I have are Kevin Kopps and Robert Gatt. Just because I know we don't have a lot of minor league pitching depth. I know a lot of people complain about that. And these are 2 college arms that Kevin Kopps can come in. He can start. He can be a long reliever. He can be a closer. He has experience in practically every situation you can be in as a pitcher. I want to see how stuff plays out on the major league level. I think he'd be a really valuable arm to have. And Robert Gasser is, we saw last year in the second half of the season, we were desperate, and I mean desperate for starting pitchers. And AJ Preller wasn't promoting guys from within. He went out and signed Vince Velasquez and Jake Arrieta, and we remember how those experiments went. They were not pretty to watch. So I would have those two guys just because they're probably the closest thing to MLB ready pitchers that we have outside of Adrian Martinez, and other than guys coming off Tommy John, which we have a few guys. So those would be my 4.
I like it. I'm only gonna have one. This doesn't mean I would strongly against trading other guys. The only guy I would put on it is CJ Abrams, because I think he's the only guy that's, at least to me, and maybe hasn't technically proven it, right? Like, he's only played in the minors, hasn't been called up. However, I think that we've seen that his tools, his ability are top tier. He is the 6th ranked prospect for a reason, and I am strongly against trading high end guys like that. So for me, the only guy that's on that untouchable list is going to be CJ Abrams. MLB.com has him right now as their 6th overall prospect. So you have a guy that's probably going to finish the year top 5, or maybe during the season will be top 5 when that list gets updated. But 60 grade hitting, 50 grade power, 80 grade running, 55 arm, 60 field. So that is pretty elite. I don't think that his ability to hit either gets talked about enough. He's put up great numbers throughout the minor league systems. I think he's going to be, you brought up Chris Taylor as a floor for him. I like that a lot. And we've talked about it a ton. The conversation of, should he get traded because there's a shortstop in Fernando Tatis that's here. There's a second baseman in Jake Cronenworth. There's a third baseman in Manny Machado. You don't have anywhere in the infield. He absolutely has the skill set, has the arm to go play an outfield spot. If he is able to adapt to that, and I fully expect him to be able to, you brought up Mookie Betts. I think that's a good example for this. You often see players going from the infield to the outfield, and they end up having a lot of success. Is there a chance that he really can't do it? Yes, of course. But the Padres haven't really taken that step to try to move him there. And they've done it with a lot of other guys, and I fully expect them to do it. I mean, we saw them do that with Jurickson Profar last year. And I would say I think the big difference there is that Jurickson Profar is not nearly the athlete that CJ Abrams is. So it's hard to compare that way because Profar didn't look too hot in the outfield. Definitely an infielder. But he's also a lot older. He hasn't developed he's not in that developmental stage like CJ Abrams. So you can definitely move him. But after that, I mean, you brought up Mackenzie Gore, Chase. I'm with you on that. I definitely think that he's a guy you don't want to trade but I don't think he's untouchable. If someone goes and sends you an offer and they're like, hey, we view Mackenzie Gore as a guy that can be a ace caliber pitcher, and they give you a deal that is like that, yeah, you might end up taking it. If they have him at valued correctly. Now, my thought would be, it's probably pretty unlikely that he's going to be valued where at least we believe that he should be. And so I think it's definitely worth it when you have those elite tools. Yes, you have the command issues. There's a reason that the Padres invested so much into the farm, into a coaching staff, into Ruben Niebla, so these younger guys can come up and flourish. So I think it would be just tough. I think you'd just be selling at the lowest point. Another guy that I will also bring up is James Wood. Now, I know that James Wood, actually 2 guys. So James Wood and Victor Acosta. Now, these are 2 guys that are very, very far away from contributing, but to me, it doesn't make any sense to trade these guys either. So I think those guys would not really be truly untouchables, but guys were just why would you trade them? They have elite tools. Yes, they're not even close to, being up to the majors yet. I mean, their ETAs are both 2025. So I just don't think it would make any sense to trade these guys. It's not the time to call them up. Obviously, it's not the time to move them away when you could end up seeing them flourish in the minor league systems. And if you do want to trade them, well, wait till 2 years until their value's, sky high, or wait to not do that and then have an elite prospect again. So those are 2 guys I think that will eventually climb their way up the Padres farm system that I just don't think would make any sense to trade. But Isaac, Chase, anybody else you guys want to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to both of you guys talked about Mackenzie Gore. I would put him in untouchable for multiple reasons. I think he's still got the skill set. Of course, I think he's got great stuff. He's got a 4-pitch mix that will do great in the MLB if he's able to come around. But also because you're going to get lowballed. You're going to get lowballed heavily if you try and give up Mackenzie Gore. If somebody comes to you to try and acquire Mackenzie Gore, and I don't think you want to get lowballed on a guy like that. What was the other thing I was going to say? Our very own Manny Machado had to get moved over out of his position of shortstop because of JJ Hardy. He was JJ Hardy. He was blocked, so he had to move over to third base, and then. I don't know. You brought up James Wood. He's going to be a top 5 prospect for however long he's in the minors. Victor Acosta's, I think he's going to end up being like the 2nd or 1st overall prospect in our system here soon. In the next 2-3 years, I really think he's good. And I think we're going to see quite a bit of guys that play the middle infield or outfield. If we're going to make any trades, you could see like Jackson Merrill. I think those kind of guys are going to get traded looking at how many middle infielders we signed out of the international class. Maybe even pitchers, I'm not sure. But that's why I like getting so many guys out of the international class. We're able to trade some guys from the 5 to 15 range and go get guys like I don't think we're going to get Matt Olson. I don't think either of us have brought up Robert Hassel. But he's probably my 2nd favorite prospect after CJ Abrams. So, I mean, if we're going to get Olson, unfortunately, we would probably have to give him up, and that sucks. Because I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's like a Cody Bellinger type player. But I think Campusano is most likely to get traded. And skill set tells me he's untouchable, but getting rid of a contract tells me he's not.
That is unfortunately the dilemma that we're in. I would probably put Hassel in like the tier below untouchable. Like, you shouldn't trade this guy unless the deal that you're getting is absolutely outstanding. And it's going to benefit the team and push them from being a playoff contender, a fringe playoff contender, to these guys are going to win the division. Like, it has to be a really good trade for the team for me to want to get rid of Hassel. But everyone else, basically, yeah, they can be traded away except Abrams. If they trade Abrams, they're going to get burned like they did trade Turner.
Yeah, I feel the same way on that. And I think Hassel, Luis Campusano, like those guys definitely deserve to be talked about in this discussion. We're actually going to be talking about Luis Campusano tomorrow, and whether or not does it make sense to trade him? Is it a dumb idea? But I wouldn't put Luis Campusano in untouchables, but I would also put Robert Hassel in that, like you said, Chase, like that tier right below it. So, I mean, high level guy, and he's a 3rd prospect in our farm for a reason. He's a top 50 prospect in the league. Like, he has a lot of value. So if it does let you like open up that window to really, really make a run for it, then yeah, sure. But it's pretty hard to find deals where that's the case. So you're going to have to get a lot if you're going to be moving Robert Hassel. So we'll see what offers get brought up for Hassel, but I doubt that he gets moved also. That's the other thing I would say about Robert Hassel. But I think that's where we're at. Anyone else, if there's guys that you think that we're not mentioning this untouchable list, or there's some lower guys you're like, hey, this guy, like we brought up Victor Acosta. That's not a guy that a lot of people are really like talking about. If there's other guys that you guys really like, let us know, because I would love to hear someone that's way down the farm system be like, hey, do not trade this guy. He's going to climb up the ranks. Because we kind of see it with guys. Like, you see these prospect lists come out, but then you're like, well, why is this guy at like 15 when we like kind of fully expect him to be top 5 in a year? Like, it's kind of odd how that's the case, how a lot of it's based on the timelines. But let us know what you guys think. But with all that said, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. So thank you for listening, and we'll be talking about Luis Campusano tomorrow.